So, tell me something terrible.
I don't know.
You know what that is?
No.
What?
Oh, it's Mario, isn't it?
No. Price is Right. That's not what I was doing at all.
Oh. I clearly don't pay attention to the Price is Right theme song.
It was not very well executed. I picked up a pencil like I was going to write things. I'm just going to critique I'm just going to write down, just write something down in the middle of your paper.
Can we use it in the divorce hearing?
Probably.
Okay. You ready to officially get started then?
Sure. You said this is a deep dive.
Yes, it is a deep dive.
The deepest of dives.
Not the deepest of dives. The first one accidentally was... I didn't even touch it.
The springs are settling. That just adds to the spooky. That actually sounds like our attic trapdoor thing.
It does.
So if we ever hear that in the middle of the night, we'll just be like, oh, that was the mic stand, not a guy in our attic.
It's totally time to burn the house down.
No. Just bolt that shut.
Yeah.
People will be like, why is there a padlock on this side? Just no reason.
Yeah.
Just for us.
Yeah.
Peace of mind.
No one's up there at all.
Yeah.
Well, that's how the bird got in.
Right? Yeah. You saw that on social media? Well, just Facebook.
Yeah.
I didn't put it on Twitter.
No, we had a fun
God.
start to like our Saturday afternoon. We kept hearing like weird noises in the walls, and my daughter was convinced that there was something in her closet. And then I was listening, and I'm like, it sounds like it's trying to climb up a wall. Like, oh my God, we have a squirrel in the house. And then I came in from my clients for the day, and Scott's like gonna try to figure out what's in there, and
there's
he's
a
like,
noise coming from a hole, yeah.
Yeah, there's noise coming from a hole, and I'm like following up the stairs, like we're like 5-6 steps up, and all of a sudden he jumps back into me and all about pushes me down the stairs because something had poked his head out.
Yeah, it looked back at me when I was trying to look into a hole. It like stuck its head out, and it was this black bird with black beady eyes. It was straight out of horror movies, all it was. It's like the jump scare from a horror movie, and then everyone like laughs about it, and then they get murdered.
By the bird.
No.
It is a European It is a European starling. They are invasive. They eat bluebird babies. So it's in someone's horror movie.
So we should have killed it, is what she's saying. We let it out to go destroy some more hopes and dreams of blue jays.
Bluebirds.
Bluebirds.
Nah, fuck the blue jays. They're all assholes.
Did you say blue jays?
No, they're bluebirds.
I know, but
I'm fairly confident I said bluebird.
I'm not going to rewind. I don't think anyone here's going to rewind.
No, nor do they actually care.
Nope. Did you want to say what we're doing here?
Oh, yeah. Hi, I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Scott.
And you're listening to Tell Me Something Terrible.
Yeah, you are. Did you like that, like, run up to it? Mm-hmm. I really leaned into that one.
Yeah. Which is a podcast about terrible things.
Yeah.
Not just rambling about birds stuck in walls.
It could be both. It's probably there's a lot more bird talk on this podcast than most, I'd say. Mm-hmm. As we own a bird.
Yeah.
And we have trees. I don't know. But this is episode 60.
Yes.
The big 60.
Yep.
What is it when you're 60?
I don't know. Close to dying.
Yeah, you're pushing retirement age. Anyway.
Yeah.
So.
And in America, retirement is where you go to die.
Great. As is tradition around here, which sounds straight out of Hot Ones. I gotta knock that off. For the anniversary episodes, every 10th one, I think so far.
Yeah.
We do a deep dive. By we, I mean Tiff. So this will be a two-parter.
Yep. We decided to break it up into 2 smaller episodes.
Yeah, we didn't think you guys wanted like a 2.5-hour episode.
It's not that long.
I bet you 60 and 61, if we put them together, are going to be like 2.5 hours long.
I only wrote 7 pages.
Yeah. I've sat through one of these before. They're lengthy.
Okay, the first one was an accident. It was 11 pages long, and I'll never do that again.
Yeah, no, I know. I stopped talking because I was like, we're going to be here until tomorrow.
It was also really awful.
It wasn't really awful.
Go episode 10 with the guy who pulled his teeth out?
Yeah, I thought you meant like it was written off. I was like, no, it wasn't written awfully. It was just a terrible
story was
one.
Awful.
Yeah. But this one...
If you haven't listened to number 10 yet, it's a doozy.
Yeah. Yeah. That was months ago now.
Yeah.
Crazy how that works. But yeah, this one should be 2 parts. We'll find you said you found a spot to...
I did.
Because we usually would record these all at once and then find a place and just hack it off in the middle of it like we did the live one with Jamie and Beth. But because this one's actually kind of planned to be 2 parts, we're going to stop and then we'll pick it back up.
I didn't write it like that, so it's still going to sound like it's chopped in half, but
That's
at least
fine.
they'll be like...
Well, at least I won't have to edit in the audio of like, hey, go listen to the first part of this.
Yeah.
And our intent is to record them both this week. So this will be one of those throwback 2-episode weeks. Mm-hmm. Fun times.
Yep.
'Tis the season.
Yes.
Spooky season.
'Tis the spooky season. With that,
holiday season, you'll be lucky to get an episode a week.
yeah, that's going to be rough.
Just a little Christmas. We'll just release one on Christmas morning. Little Christmas present. Yeah. Sit around, open gifts, listen to us. Talk about Krampus.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm not going to talk about Krampus.
That's fine. If I don't eat enough bananas,
you get Krampus.
I get a Krampus. Yes.
So we'll get started then, shall we?
Some low hanging fruit. Yes.
Oh. I was going to try to make a really bad joke from low hanging fruit, but it was going to be about bananas, and that just would have escalated into a dick joke, and so I just decided it wasn't worth it.
Best not.
Yeah.
You got to throttle back sometimes.
Yeah.
I do that a lot on this podcast.
Don't. You have to contribute a little bit more.
No. I mean, sometimes there's a joke that is
too insensitive.
I'm uncomfortable saying into a mic sometimes. So those are the ones I hold back, and I usually tell you about after.
This is how I lose my job.
Yeah.
HR will pull you in there and be like, so we heard.
Yeah. Or like get.
Can you say to my face that joke about the RAPE? That'd be great. You're like, oh shit.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like a weird mix of like, I might think it's funny, and you know me enough to be like, oh, it's probably funny, but people who don't, they'll be like, oh, that was kind of a dick joke. Like, not actually a dick joke. Like, he's a dick. Bad joke. So I just keep those ones inside sometimes. It's best.
I, on the other hand, is just fully embrace that I'm a sarcastic asshole, so.
You own your own business. You can do what you want.
So to cap off our very first spooky season, I'm going to tell you the nitty-gritty details of the Salem Witch Trials.
This is where we would, if we're on video, we'd do like a quick edit to us popping on witch hats. Do they have an actual name? A witch hat? Or is it just a witch hat?
Just a witch hat. We do have a cauldron out on the porch right now.
Are we sure they don't have a... Anyway.
I don't think they have a name. I don't know. Google it.
I'm not... What do you call a witch's hat? A witch hat.
So, after the basics, everybody kind of knows the basics. And then I started actually like researching this, and I was like, holy shit. And I'm sure there are probably like official podcasts that do like multiple episodes long and do the research. But I found out that there's literally 900 original documents from the 1600s when this all happened. So there's so much information to sift through that it's literally impossible. Did you find an answer?
No, I found a lot of other answers.
Other answers?
Yeah. There's a witch hat is a term used in roofing. I'm not going down that rabbit hole.
No.
Otherwise, I won't listen to hear anything you say for like the next 10 minutes.
So, there was a perfect storm of socioeconomic strife, cold winters, lack of food, religious factions, neighbors pitted against neighbors, power struggles, and mass hysteria that all converged, leading to the death of innocent people and upwards of 180 to 200 people, mostly women, because we are weak and susceptible to the devil's influence, and imprisoned for crimes they didn't commit. You're not supposed to agree with that.
You guys can do that magic thing where you make babies, like they grow inside you.
Are babies the devil's influence?
Clearly witchcraft.
Is that it wasn't God that impregnated Mary? It was the devil.
Yes, it was just straight witchcraft.
You guys have been gaslit for the last 2,000 years,
right? When did this happen? Did you already say you haven't?
No, not yet.
Okay, I know it's hundreds of years ago, but I don't actually.
We'll get to it. Fine. So, in 1627, the area known as Essex County in Massachusetts was settled by white people looking for more fertile farmland and better fishing. So this place, more specifically, became known as Salem. And people kind of spread out from there, creating Salem Village and Salem Town in what is now known as modern-day Danvers, which was Salem Village.
Okay.
Yeah, so a lot of people are like, I'm going to go to Salem, except it didn't actually happen in what is officially known as Salem. It's happened in a little subsection outside of Salem in a place called Danvers.
Danvers?
Danvers. So this is where...
That was not a Boston accent whatsoever.
That was a shitty Southern accent.
I don't know how you'd say Danvers in a Boston accent. I'm not going to try either.
You usually have to drop an F-bomb if you're going to do your...
Yeah, is it Danvers? Danvers?
Sure.
Danvers.
Let's go with that.
Okay.
So this is where the first events of the Salem Witch Trials started to unfold. In the years leading up to 1692, which is the year it took place, Winters grew colder and longer, crops failed, food was in short supply, raids by the local Native American tribes were happening on the reg. There was a war in Maine, and earlier trials and hangings of witches were commonplace in all of New England. And one of which took place 10 years prior to the Salem Witch Trials, where some of the people that were involved in like the trials in Maine, actually, not the witches, but like the crazies, like the witnesses,
Okay.
they made their way down to Salem.
The Muggles.
Yes. So the charter for the Massachusetts Bay Area had been revoked for continued breaking of the law. So it stripped the area of any legal grounds in the eyes of the crown. So the area was left courtless and kind of lawless, sort of in limbo, because they were actually thinking that they probably weren't also allowed to settle there. They had no like right to land or anything because the crown was like, y'all keep being crazy, and so we're going to take your rights away.
Good plan.
Yep.
Plan.
So up until that point, instead of just physically duking it out with neighbors over minor disputes, village people would sue whoever they felt like it, that they had like any sort of problem with. Because this is back when like people would just be like, you stole my cow, and they'd be like, no, I didn't, and they would just fisticuffs over it. And so instead they were trying to
bare knuckle fight.
Yeah, they were trying to have a little less chaos, so they were like, just take them to court. It's kind of like
Be orderly.
Yeah, it's like the first kind of baby steps of like civil court. So there was also a smallpox outbreak that had just swept through the bay. So there were land disputes and tax disputes over a new church with a new minister that was being built in the Salem village that the villagers didn't even want. They were like, whatever, we can just walk the 5 miles to the closest church in Salem. We don't care.
We call them village people.
The village people?
Yeah, they're building a new YMCA. It's funny because that was like a church. Anyway.
Yeah, the YMCA is young men, Christian.
Catholic.
Catholic.
I think.
No.
It's Catholic.
I'm pretty sure it's Christian.
It's Catholic.
Does it matter?
Yes.
It's like 99% the same.
Not really.
So they didn't want to have to pay for the new church, and they also didn't want to pay for what the townspeople decided was an exuberant salary of the new minister.
It is Christian.
It is Christian?
Yeah.
I told you. So they didn't want to have to pay for the new church, and they didn't want to have to pay the salary of the new minister that they thought was over the top.
Okay.
So the Puritans held sway over the governing the area, setting up their strict standards based on their own religious beliefs, which is what got them in trouble in the first place and got their charter removed from the crown. They were like, you guys are making outrageous laws based on religion. We're taking your, power away.
Okay.
Go figure.
What are you doing with all your papers?
Moving my
over there?
papers because I
Holy
can't
cow.
see them. So, these laws, they included in order of wrongness.
This is the Puritans' laws?
Yes, these are the Puritan laws. The worst offense that you could do is idolatry. Not adultery.
Idols.
Idols.
Fake idols.
Yep. That's the worst offense.
Okay.
Followed by witchcraft, which was considered a crime against the government and would result in death.
Okay.
Blasphemy, which you could be burned at the stake to death for.
Okay.
Murder, poisoning, and bestiality, and so on.
Okay.
So this is the order of...
So the worst one's idols.
Yeah. And then witchcraft.
And then witchcraft and wizardry.
Yep.
And then
And then blasphemy.
herbology. Oh, sorry.
And then murder. Mm-hmm. Yep. So, and bestiality made it on that
So if
list
you
too.
use witchcraft to commit murder, you're done for. Like
Oh, yes. That one's mine. Okay. I thought I picked up your wine glass.
your
and I
wine's the
panicked.
hot wine, mine's the iced wine.
Yes.
Is this where you'd like to plug Witch's Brew and say how good it is?
Oh, yeah. Witch's Brew's delicious. It's one of our local wineries-ish in Michigan. Not brought to you at all by it. It just seemed fitting for this episode.
No, it's in the picture we took. It's cool because it's a wine you can drink cold, or I guess you can drink at room temperature.
Room temperature, yeah, because it's a red.
But-
it's a
or-
mulled wine, so
Yeah.
you can drink it hot, and it's delicious.
But it tastes like cinnamon and like nutmeggy red wine.
It's very good.
It's pretty good. I wouldn't want to get drunk off it, I don't think.
It's 12.5%, though.
Yeah,
Not
but I
bad.
feel like I would wake up and feel like I got drunk off of like pumpkin pie or something.
Probably.
Yeah, I don't know if I feel like I would smell like an alcoholic pumpkin pie, which maybe you'd be all right.
Yeah.
Now they said out loud.
Taking PSL to a whole new level.
Yeah.
So, according to the Puritans, the devil was a very real threat, one that could walk among them. And it was one that needed to enlist the lost souls, mostly women, because again, we're the weaker sex. In exchange for your soul, you would be offered material goods or like better social standings, a better life. All you had to do was sign your name in his book, and this is how you become a witch.
Oh.
Yep. So in January of 1692, 9-year-old Betty Paris and her cousin Abigail, who was orphaned and living with her uncle, the aforementioned newly instated minister, Reverend Samuel Paris. So he was a 39-year-old failed businessman.
Okay.
Turned minister. So the pair of girls came down with an unknown illness. So the girls would twitch, their bodies convulsing in what was described as an unearthly turning. They would bark, throw things.
Sorry, just anything barking. It's funny to not, like, if you imagine it, like, it's kind of funny.
Oh, yeah.
Probably scary if it happened to your kid. Mm-hmm. If your kid barks, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to offend.
So when we were growing up, some of them hissed, and we can't make fun of that child because that's our child. We're raising the weird girl that hisses.
No, just sometimes she plays like animals too well.
Yes.
You're like, you can walk like both legs. You'd be fine.
Just 2 legs, not 4.
Yeah.
2.
Yeah.
They would also speak in gibberish and complain of being pinched or pricked by invisible forces. So after a few weeks of these unexplained fits, Reverend Paris called in Dr. Williams Griggs. So this was the village's only doctor who could only he could only read and not write.
Huh.
And he's the doctor.
Okay.
Okay. So after visiting the family...
Prescriptions were a nightmare.
They really were. It doesn't matter. You can't read what they wrote, and you can't read what they write nowadays anyway.
That's true.
So after visiting the family, Dr. William Griggs was unable to come up with a diagnosis, deciding that the children must be bewitched. Because at the time, if they couldn't come up with any reasonable explanation, wandering wombs and all, they decided...
She's a witch.
Yeah. No, they weren't witches. They were just bewitched. Yes. So a neighbor...
Now the witch hunt begins.
Yes.
Okay.
So a neighbor, Mary Sibley, suggested that the family use counter magic to suss out the witch that was inflicting the girls. So Tituba, the Paris's... that's her name. Tituba.
Okay.
She's the Paris's family slave from... it was either I think it was Barbados. So she's the family slave from Barbados. There's debate on if they actually got her from Barbados or if they bought her at auction in Florida because humans are awful. Mm-hmm. So along with her husband, affectionately known as John Indian.
So creative with the names.
Yeah. So
That's a whole mess in Pocahontas, though. Isn't the guy's name John?
Yes.
Okay.
John Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
because they couldn't, like, who named him? Like,
John Smith is a real dude.
Yeah, I know. But I'm saying, like, that entire situation is just full of stereotypes with, yeah.
When you delve in deeper, you realize she was like 12 years old, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
No, it's wrong on a lot of levels.
Most stories from that era, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to probably
look a little deeper than what they tell you in your history books, guys.
Yeah. Or what Disney tells you.
Yeah. Disney glossed over a lot of details. Yeah. So, Tituba, John, and the neighbor Mary Sibley all teamed up together to make what is known as a witch's cake, which was rye mixed with the urine of the afflicted.
Sorry.
What's wrong?
I'm listening. I thought you were going to say like burned sage or some shit. Nope, they're making piss cake.
Yep.
Cool.
They baked it.
Was it stodgy? Sorry.
It was a little vinegary.
Yeah.
And then they would feed it to a dog.
What?
Yep.
Even the dog was probably disappointed.
Yes.
I don't want your piss cake. Get out of here.
So this would make the witch that was causing the affliction sick, which would then in turn make it easier to root out who
Where'd they come up with this? The doctor clearly didn't read it in a book.
I don't. I don't.
Is this what they do in Barbados?
No, it was Mary Sibley, I think, that came up with.
Oh, she sounds like
But-
she knows a little too much about witches.
Yeah, oddly enough, never accused.
Oh, because she was on the inside.
Yeah.
Though, yeah, she's like the.
She was the only actual
like
witch in the entire situation.
Yeah, no, she's like the murder dude who's like hangs out at the cops bar because he like wants get all the deets. And,
Gacy?
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
She's just doing.
No, that wasn't Gacy.
No, it's the.
Fuck, who's the guy who fucked the shoes? Oh God, it's on Mindhunter.
It's not
the
Geen.
big bumble butt. Oh my God,
it's not Geen.
It's not. No, Geen's too tiny. Oh shit, doesn't matter.
No.
It's the guy who fucked the shoes,
Yeah.
and his name was Bumblebutt. So if you're that deep into true crime right now, you're probably shouting at me exactly who it is. It will come to me.
Yeah. It's not Gacy.
God, he did photos
We're both there.
in the garage. Shit.
Anyway, if
Doesn't
you haven't
matter.
watched Mindhunter on Netflix, it got canceled, which is a travesty, but it's great.
Well, I knew about him before Mindhunter.
No, I know, but
Yeah.
I'm saying like it was building up to a very climactic third season, and it just never happened.
I know, it was so sad. So after that tangent,
Told you this is gonna be 2.5 hours.
yep. So I know you're shocked, but it didn't work. It only made things worse.
Well, yeah, they got a pissed off dog full of piss cake, and these two girls still barking at the dog who smells like piss. It's just a whole mess.
So not only did Betty and Abigail's
Mary Sibley just over a cauldron giggling her ass off. These
You're like,
stupid,
they fell for it. These white
stupid
people.
muggles.
So actually, there were rumors though that Tituba would tell stories to entertain the girls, like at night, because it was New England in the late 1600s, and there's nothing better to do.
Yeah.
She actually would tell them like stories of like just fantastical stories from like her culture, I'm sure, and they were like, "She's a witch, burn her."
Yeah.
So, the Betty and Abigail's affliction only became worse, and then soon two other girls, Anne Jr. and Elizabeth Hubbard, who was an orphaned 17-year-old that came to live with Dr. Griggs.
Huh.
Came down. You're gonna do that a lot.
Does he just surround himself with young girls
No.
time after time? Because that would be troubling too.
No, no. There's just going to be a lot of connections. That's just going to make you go, huh? So those two girls wound up coming down with the same sort of affliction, presenting a lot of the same issues, and so this was in early February at this point. And this is when Betty and Abigail accused the first of the witches, Tituba, Sarah Good, who was a local ornery beggar, and Sarah Osborne, who was an outspoken widow who had the audacity to let her opinions be known, and she dressed real fancy and flashy. Yeah. She wore buttons and stuff.
Oh my God.
I know. That bitch.
That witch.
So both the Sarahs vehemently denied being witches, but Tituba, after a stint alone with Reverend Samuel, confessed during her initial hearing, weaving a story about witchcraft, consorting with the devil himself, witnessing other women riding on brooms, seeing familiars, which were the likes of red cats, yellow birds, big black dogs. There was a bird with a human face.
The Grim.
The Grim,
The
yes.
big black dog, yeah.
Yep. Tituba also gave names of other witches whose names that she saw next to hers when she signed the devil's book. And this started the precedent of saving your own life in exchange for a confession in a list of names of fellow witches.
Oh, how convenient.
After she spent time alone with her owner,
Yeah.
who was also the new reverend of the church that nobody wanted there. Real convenient, huh?
Yep. And the outspoken lady probably was one of the main people against his new church.
Yep.
And the ornery beggar was probably bad for his business.
Or she was just poor.
Yeah.
They were like,
Low-hanging
the
fruit.
poor, literally.
Yeah. There's a callback to the beginning of this podcast.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
I got it.
Did you?
So by April, the afflicted had grown to about 30 people. And then, nope, just kidding. They didn't grow to 30 people. I wrote the wrong information here. I didn't actually write information. This was a spot I was supposed to fix and I didn't.
No.
It says by April,
Let's just make it up.
it says that by April, the afflicted had grown to this many people and 6 more have been accused.
Well, this is part of the Choose Your Own Adventure book we are writing, or you have to go look up that portion of the podcast.
I type a lot of this stuff out and do kind of rough outlines, and then there's big, like, minute information that I need. I just bold it.
Yeah.
No, I usually bold it, and I bolded these 2 pieces, thought I fixed them, and clearly didn't. I actually think there wound up being like 6 people afflicted and 30 people in jail by like April or May.
Okay.
So.
Won't hold you to it.
Yep. So, no, that doesn't make any sense. April must have been 6 more people. By May, there was 30 people. So this, in April, it brought the total of people in jail up to 10. They were being forced to wait until the new charter because they couldn't legally do anything because they had no court system set up.
Gotcha.
So that new charter would reinstate laws and courts, and then they were waiting for it to arrive so that they could take the accused to trial.
Did they think the witches outnumbered them? Like, how many people are actually in this tiny little town at that point?
I never looked up the population.
Because if you're talking like whatever you say at the end, like 100 to 200 people or whatever, it's like
180 to 200. Oh, it's not just this town.
Okay, but I'm just saying, like, even if you got 10 witches in a tiny like 1600s town, that's a good chunk of the population,
yes.
at least, or at least a noticeable chunk.
Well, there's like a half a dozen or so towns that are around Salem. So you have Salem and like 3 or 4 little sublets off of Salem, and it was pretty much all over Essex County.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, it's tiny Massachusetts.
It's spread.
Suburbia.
Yeah, it spread. It was way more than just in Salem.
Yeah.
So the jail in Salem Village is a wooden structure with a dungeon, which is where they kept the witches, mainly because it was thought that their specters would not be able to get out of the dungeon at night to wander about freely, harassing innocent people and coercing them to join Satan's army.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So there was a single pot to piss in that was against one wall, and it would reach sub-freezing temperatures in the winter months and then scorching temperatures in the summer. So if you wanted to have fresh hay to sleep in or food or water, you would have to pay for it.
With all the money you have?
Yeah, so you would rack up debt while you were in jail.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're going to probably die anyway, so rack it up.
Why not?
Yep.
Live in the lap of luxury.
Yeah, who cares?
With your hay straw, like your hay bed and your old stale
food,
rye bread. Mm-hmm. Yeah, piss cakes that they're bringing you.
Probably. It didn't work on the dogs. Take it straight to the witches.
So many people, since most of the accused were the degenerate, the poorer people in the surrounding area were jailed after the trials were over, while someone was kind enough to either pay for their jail tab or they had to work it off. So by the peak of the trial, accused witches were being held in jails as far away as Boston and Cambridge.
I don't know anything about Massachusetts, but that sounds like it's a fair distance.
Well, considering the closest town of these people was 5 miles away, it's a poke.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Boston is actually where the beloved theologist and appointed record keeper for the trials, Cotton Mathers, hailed from.
It's a bold move, Cotton.
Do you recognize the name Cotton Mathers at all?
Do I? No. Should
okay.
I?
Well,
I don't.
Did you pay attention? You were never in advanced lit, were you? Did you do Brit Lit?
No.
All right. Well, we had to read the Crucible, so this sounded familiar to me.
No.
Okay.
I took AP Calc and History in advanced PE twice. And by the time my senior year, I just peer tutored. I didn't actually go to class. I just sat in freshman classes and helped.
All I did was
tutored them.
All I did was art classes and music classes. So
right, yeah,
opposites
and band forever.
Yes, opposites do attract.
Right, yeah. There's a reason we didn't know each other in high school. We zero the same classes.
Right. So it was Cotton Mather's job to keep records of all of the proceedings and what was said during the trials and throughout all the investigations. So a lot of his work is why we know so much about exactly how and what went down during the Salem Witch Trials. So he was also a Puritan. He was also skeptical of spectral evidence, which is the idea that a witch or the devil is capable of projecting their likeness, or in the case of the devil, the likeness of an innocent person, in order to torture and harass good God-fearing folk at night. So they could do it like an out-of-body experience. They just go into someone's bedroom and torment them.
So like their like spirit essentially could like go and do it?
Yep.
So like in Game of Thrones? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes. Yes, the baby. Yes, the demon baby that... Which Brandon was that?
Whatever.
Doesn't matter.
We have that's like 8 years ago now or some shit.
Oh God, we're getting old. So the trouble with this logic during this time is not that it was clearly bullshit. The problem is that how do you prove if the specter is truly that of the witch or the devil impersonating a poor innocent soul?
Or just a poor innocent soul.
No, it has...
Or a poor, not so innocent soul.
Yes. So he was skeptical about... he wasn't skeptical of spectral evidence in itself. He was skeptical of the fact that spectral evidence was allowed in the trials as evidence.
As like provable things?
Yes. So his father, on the other hand, Increase Mathers.
Increase? Okay.
Yep. I quadruple checked it. It is Increase Mathers. He was even more so a critic
I wish
of...
your last name would have been Balls. Increase Balls and Cotton Balls. That'd have been way better. Sorry. That's way better than Mathers. Is your nose okay over there?
I'm having an allergy fit right now. I'm so itchy.
It's okay. You're just like, every time I talk, it looks like you're trying to erase your nose with your palm.
I actually did just a little bit of coke before this.
Did you?
Uh-huh.
You seem pretty sleepy for someone all hopped up on the coke.
Built up a tolerance. So Increase Balls was even more a critic to this super sketch form of evidence. He thought it was all nonsense.
Yeah.
So Cotton Mathers was also an early critic.
He said, listen, none of this matters.
If only.
Okay, I'm done making... I know this topic gets heavy eventually, so I just want to get them out there. I want to get the jokes out in front, keep everyone smiling so we don't cry later. It's okay.
You'll still probably cry later.
Probably not.
No, just wait till the end.
Me?
Not you. You're
Okay.
a psychopath.
I'm not a psychopath. I just don't know these people.
Or have
You
feelings.
gotta earn these tears. You can't be a stranger and get my tears.
Sure you can. It's called empathy.
No, everyone processes things different.
So,
Don't tell me how to feel or to feel.
So Cotton Mathers was also an early critic of how this newly created court system worked and how the newly appointed magistrates, William Stoughton, John Hawthorne, and Jonathan Corwin, did their jobs. None of them were actually officially trained judges either. Just adding that in there. So Cotton famously said, quote, "It would be better that 10 suspected witches may escape than one innocent person be condemned." Don't let this fool you, though. Like, he still had a lot of other really controversial and horrible things to say.
Uh-huh.
So he called one of the accused women a rampant hag and the queen of evil.
Well, at least he's catchy about it. He could be a marketing team,
He could. So other early objectors of the trials included heads of other prominent areas in, like, other family in the area, John Proctor.
Of the Procter and Gamble family?
Most likely.
Most likely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not at all. They die out.
Oh, okay.
Yep. We'll get to it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So finally, Governor Phipps, who is the new governor of the Bay Colony, arrived stateside. With him was the new charter, which imposed stricter laws and put a limit on new laws being created, all willy-nilly truck driver, in the colony based solely on Puritan ideals, which the charter, the entire point was to try to reduce the religious influence in lawmaking, which I'm sure in turn pissed off quite a few people. And it still pisses off quite a few people 330 years later.
Yes. Yeah.
But we're not going to get political. And I digress. So the punishment for being found a witch was death by hanging, and this was based off of every Puritan minister's favorite Bible verse, Exodus 22:18. Do you know it?
No.
You don't have the book of Exodus memorized?
No.
It is simply, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live."
Okay.
So now witches must die.
Okay.
Okay.
It's kind of loosely interpreted.
Sure.
It was WHICH witch too. They don't care. They're just like, it says witch. Hang her.
So Governor Phipps got wind of the growing concern.
Okay, Governor Phipps, the preacher dude's Griggs.
No. The preacher, the reverend,
Is Griggs, right?
the doctor is Griggs.
God.
So you have the Reverend Samuel Paris. He's the
Paris.
new reverend.
Okay. Got you. No.
Yep. He's the new reverend.
Griggs is the doc. Phipps is the new
Governor.
governor.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, a lot of 5-letter names here.
And
I'm just
then-
trying to keep them all. No.
And then Cotton Mathers is
I know
the
who Cotton
recorder.
is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Governor Phipps got wind of the growing concern regarding witches in the area and knew he couldn't wait until June, which is the earliest that he could instate an official court.
Okay.
So he decided to fast track a special court to try all of these accused witches. So the name of this court was the Court of Oyer and Terminer.
Okay. Are you going to ask me if I recognize that?
Absolutely not.
Okay,
It's
good.
Latin. It means to hear and decide or hear and determine.
Okay.
Yep. So they would hear evidence and then they would decide right then and there if they were guilty or not.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And remember that evidence includes that spectral.
I cut the mic again.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
That evidence that was allowed was the spectral
It's going to
evidence.
sound so good. I apologize. I'm not going to edit it out. It's randomly in the middle of the podcast, but sorry.
He caught it though. He's got some fast hands. He's the witch. Burn her.
Clearly.
So, the magistrates and the jury and the audience / witnesses crammed into little pubs and would be and they would question the accused based on the fact that the afflicted persons were telling the truth. Hearsay was allowed in the form of spectral evidence, and then the line of questioning started from the point of view that the person was guilty.
Oh,
So-
so opposite of what it is now.
Exactly.
All right.
So
Tell
the
me why
magistrates.
you're not a witch.
Oh no, it's not even that. It literally wasn't even that. They assumed that they were a witch. We'll get to it. So the magistrates would ask leading questions with, assuming that they were a witch, why did you do this? Not like, did you do this? They were like,
Yeah.
why did you do this? When did you become a witch? When was the last time you consorted with the devil? Like, all different sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
So, and they would not take like never and I wouldn't and I'm not as an answer at all. So the accused started their trial under the assumption of guilt, and they had to prove they're innocent against unprovable spectral evidence by themselves with no defense counsels.
Oh, what could go wrong?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So,
Well, and they were probably just, because of the times, undereducated women that were usually, poor, quote unquote, what was it? Some sort of hag?
rampant.
A rampant hag.
They were rampant
yeah.
hags.
Yeah, someone who's probably super well-spoken, respected in the community, has a lot of, backbone to stand on.
Oh, don't worry. We'll get to those super respected, well-loved in the community.
Oh, are you?
Uh-huh.
Oh, good.
They die too.
Good.
Yep. So the number of afflicted and accused continues to grow. Every afflicted person was either a preteen to teenage girls ranging between the ages of 9 to 20 people. So these are the people that are afflicted, have this like unknown disorder. They're all bewitched.
Puberty?
Yeah, probably. And soon this included
You ever
Anne.
talk to a 12, 13-year-old girl?
We make
Yeah.
some crazy shit up.
They seem rageful.
Yep.
Wonder why.
Now, could you imagine being in a place where you had to wear like bonnets and tight skirts and was constantly cold and underfed?
Yeah. And inferior and told so? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'd be rageful too.
Yeah. So soon, this group of girls included Ann Carr Putnam Jr., that I'd mentioned before. She was the 12-year-old daughter of Thomas Putnam, and the Putnams were a well-to-do family in the community.
You don't hear a lot of lady juniors anymore.
No.
Should
No.
bring that back.
How?
I don't know.
Someone bring it back. The next fish. We'll have measles, mumps, rubella, and Ann Jr.
There you go. That can be our algae eater.
Yep. So the Putnams were a well-to-do family in the community, and they were also avid supporters of the new minister, Reverend Samuel Paris.
So they're untouchable. Because
Yeah.
he's the puppeteer here, the puppet master, He's pulling all the strings.
It gets better. So the Putnams were also pot stirrers. They were constantly suing fellow townspeople
They're
over
putting their
tiny...
noses where they shouldn't belong. Sorry. That wasn't good. It was forced, but I was still going to do it. I was committed.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Thank you.
So they were fans of suing people over tiny disputes. We said they had like that little beginnings of civil court.
Uh-huh.
They used it frequently.
Abused it,
Yep.
perhaps.
Yes, because when going through records, the Putnams' names turned up more frequently than not. Anne ultimately accused 60 people of witchcraft. And then all of the Putnams combined, like the whole family, named over 160 people guilty of witchcraft.
Holy shit.
Do you remember how many people were
180
accused?
out of 200? Yeah. Someone should just accuse this lady.
So she's 12. She's so innocent. So then...
Is she now?
No. So then Mercy Lewis, who was a 19-year-old orphan who came to work as a servant for... You want to take one guess what family she worked for?
The Putnams?
Yes.
She sounds like a witch.
Burn her. So she wound up living through Native American attacks in Maine. She accused another 9, one of which was the previous minister of the village, Reverend George Burroughs.
Oh, a man witch.
Uh-huh. There are several.
Call him a sloppy Joe. That's a man witch joke. Did you catch it?
No.
His name was George, but I was still going to make the sloppy Joe joke. I didn't care. I was sitting on that one for a minute.
So Reverend Sloppy Joe George Burroughs, he was the previous minister right before Paris. Mm-hmm. And Mercy, coincidentally, had previously worked for him as well.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Goes all the way up to the top.
Freaking spider web you're weaving here.
So another prominent afflicted child was Mary Wilcott, who was the daughter of the leader of Salem's militia, who was also neighbors to Reverend Paris and related to the Putnams by marriage.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows everybody.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
And this is where we're going to leave off.
Everybody knows everybody. And everybody calls you witch, though. It's not the Cheers song, except you just change one word and it gets real dark.
I would much rather be a witch than a friend, though.
Wait, this is where we're leaving off?
Yes.
Okay.
So I gave you a ton of information.
I was just about to climax, but that's fine.
Just giving you some blue balls.
Yes. That's a main ingredient in a lot of witches' potions.
Blue balls?
Yes.
I thought maybe it was Sloppy Joe's.
Yeah, and duck feathers.
Yes. And Rampant Hags.
Yes. A dash of Rampant Hag and some piss cake. Urine rye cake.
Yum.
You should see that TikTok guy, the eggy baker guy.
Oh,
you
yeah.
should, see if he can make some anti-witch cake.
if we can make some witch cake.
I need afflicted urine. Find some guy walking around with the afflicted t-shirt. Sir, I've been looking for this ingredient for years. He's just looking at you in his acid wash jeans.
Rhinestone covered back pocket jeans on a man.
And his gelled hair.
And his Oakleys on backwards.
Yes. Perhaps the white seashell necklace, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and a watch that's probably too big and has a lot of shiny shit on it.
Yep. And I'm sure he would have no problem whipping it out in public.
Oh, his dick. I thought you meant his watch. I was like, oh, you can't hide a watch. It's on your... Oh, you're talking as Randy Johnson. Okay.
Yes. So I kind of left you with the scene, kind of how we're building up there. Mm-hmm. And then the next episode, we'll jump into the trials and all the really bad stuff.
Yeah. And I'm going to challenge you. I need a roster. So when we start this, because we're not going to record this tonight. We're going to record it like 2 or 3 nights. Mm-hmm. I need a roster, quick rundown.
A rundown?
I need the key players.
A summary.
Yeah, it's like at a soap opera when you have the introductions and you get to see everybody and their dumb hair and their skin, nice skin. They're like, it's Barbara and Tommy. It's always guys with little kid names. A lot of Tommies, I feel like. Billy's. And he's 60. That's William.
No, not at all.
He's not Billy anymore.
When I turn 60, I'm going to start going by Tiffy.
Ugh. Well, I'll be dead, thankfully, so.
Guys, it's a running joke.
It's more like a Lane joke. Get it? That's a dead person joke.
Yep, I got it. I love you so much.
You can tell we've peaked. All right, we're going to wrap this up, and we'll be back. This is coming out Tuesday.
Yes.
You want to do the other one Friday, usual?
Yes.
Okay. So part 1, this one, you just listened to it. You knew when it came out. The next one, going to come out Friday.
Yes.
Where we're going to have a batting order of who's starting where, and then we'll take off.
All right. That sounds good.
And we can hear all about all these people being hung. I thought they burned witches.
No, they burned hearsayers and blasphemers.
Oh.
After they were drawn and quartered.
Well, naturally.
Yeah. Yep. And then they didn't make them swim either. That was reserved for another crime that I can't remember.
Swim?
Yeah, where they're like, if she floats, she's a witch if she sinks and drowns. She's not, except she's sunk and drowned. That happened in Europe.
Huh.
Yeah, not here. No one was burned
That's how
here.
you tell if they're a mermaid.
Yes. Yeah, they actually were like, goodbye, cruel world. Fuck these people.
Yeah, they
I'm
just
joining
sunk
the fish.
and never came back. Okay, she was a mermaid. You're right. They're just waiting for them to float back up to the
Living
top.
the life.
Right? All right.
That's actually how mermaids happened.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they drowned some witches and they turned into mermaids.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got that, like, Phineas, Totalum, boom.
Yep.
No more legs.
It's like the opposite of Ariel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just, you never go to the bathroom again.
Yep. Oh, and I'll do sources at the end of the second part because I've got a whole paragraph of sources.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
All right, thanks for listening.
Yes, and you'll hear us in a few days.
And grab a bottle of Witch's Brew for part 2.
It's delicious.
Especially all of you who listen to this on your way to work in the morning. Best way to start your day.
Yep.
All right.
Oh, and if you've made it this far.
Congrats. We're
Yep.
going to say that for this one too? Okay.
Yep, we're going to save it.
It's done. The deed is done.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Okay, thanks.
Goodbye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to our terrible podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or wherever you like to listen. Feel free to follow us on Twitter at TMSTPod.
And if you'd like to support the show, you can find us on Patreon at Tell Me Something Terrible.
Oof, that was terrible.